What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. We are officially at the start of college football. Week one is here. Week one's games on Thursday concluded last night. Got games tonight, games Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to fill out your Labor Day weekend with college football. NFL starts in a week. Other sports are going on as well. But it's going to be a pretty college football heavy episode. I know y'all are here for one thing. This is your Sports Digest. I'm your host, Alex McNinch. Florida, Utah last night. If you don't know, I'm a Florida fan. Mom went there. Sister goes there. A lot of connections to Florida within my family. Been a fan since birth. Yeah, sure, I go to Southern Miss. But I bleed orange and blue no matter what. So this game last night has more of an impact on me than the other games would for Southern Miss this season. Came out a couple days prior. We kind of talked about it, saying that Rising wasn't going to play. I had a feeling he wasn't going to. They were just playing the smokescreen game. And then it came out that Keithy wasn't going to play either. Their star tight end, who last year, him and Dalton Kincaid, who was a first-round pick to the Bills, absolutely dominated us last year. So that was a big thing. It was like, oh, shoot, here we go. We have a chance. They're missing their quarterback. They're missing their big tight end, the guy who killed us last year. They're missing a couple D linemen. Let's see what we can do here. But I think last night proved that Utah is number 14 in the country for a reason. They ran with Bryson Barnes and I think Nate Johnson's his name. Yeah, Nate Johnson. Bryson Barnes primarily passing. Nate was killing us on the ground. First drive, had a 3rd and 2, false start by Damian George, transfer from Alabama, playing tackle. Not very good way to start your drive. Obviously punted away, and then everybody saw the eventual 70-something yard touchdown for Money Parks. Look, if you look at the play, and Kirk Herbstreit kept saying it. R.J. Moten, our new safety, transfer from Michigan, made the wrong read. Took the underneath guy when over the top was going to be open. Jason Marshall was playing man coverage. Just got beat off the first step. Money, very fast. Marshall, good recovery speed, but not track speed. Moten tried to get there, turned his head a couple times, tripped, fell, ended up tripping up Marshall, led to the big touchdown. That was a complete gut punch to start the game because we had just gotten a little bit of progress. The false start pushes us back, incompletion on 3rd down, punted away, touchdown first play. In my mind, I was like, once that false start happened, we had to punt it away. I was like, there's no doubt in my mind. You can ask, I texted some people last night during it. I said, there's no doubt in my mind that they're about to score right now. Like, there's something big is about to happen. Because last year, if you watch it, Utah's first play against Florida was a play-action pass that they looked downfield for on like a 50-yard pass. They want to take that big shot early. And with a quarterback that we don't really have too much tape on, I guess they wanted to try to capitalize on something and get us going out of the gates. And they did exactly that. They got the big touchdown to start the game. And immediately it was like, please, God, don't tell me it's going to be one of these nights. And I think it was more miserable watching it as a pessimistic fan rather than optimistic fan, which, first of all, before I continue going on, I just want to give my peace of mind here real quick. And I know this doesn't just pertain to Florida fans. This is a college football thing, but there's an issue going on. I know, especially, like I said, to me, it's more heightened within Florida fan bases because that's the fan base I see the most in college that complains a lot. And these guys are like, the fans are so pessimistic. That first play, you would have thought that our entire football program just got shut down for budget cuts the way that they were talking. 0-12 season, man, fire Billy Napier. Why is Graham Mertz our quarterback? Like, it's the first play of the season. Sure, you get beat. Somebody makes a bad read. You get turned around. You trip up your teammate on accident. It happens, man. Sure, can you have those types of things happening on the road against Utah? Where Utah, by the way, ranked 14th for a reason. They're still very good. Very, very good defense. We talked about that in the Pac-12 preview if you watched that. Talked about how great their defense was going to be, and that could pull them ahead of other teams in the Pac-12 as their defense compared to others, right? Their depth is unbelievable. We saw that last night with constant injuries with them. And I don't know if you guys know this, but going into the game, Utah has not lost a game at home since 2020 against USC. That's pretty good. I'm no expert, but that's pretty good. So you would have thought last night that our entire football program got shut down. Sure, were there some times throughout the game where it was questionable? Yes. But it seems like every single year, every game, whether it's football or basketball, I don't really keep up with the baseball comments. I don't think that people really care that much about baseball online. But primarily football and basketball, the fans are so quick to flip on a teammate or a player on the team. And then the second they do something good, boom, they're back right on board. And it is so annoying. I hate being a Florida fan in that aspect. I love this team. I grew up bleeding this team. There are a lot of guys that just hop on this team because, or they go to school there. The Gator blue and orange is literally in my blood, right? So I will love this team. I got rejected from the University of Florida. It was the worst thing I had to ever read in my life. But yet I still love this school. I still love this team. I still love everything about it. But they're just people that are just, it's so negative. And I know we preach positivity on this podcast, always trying to look at the bright side. Yeah, sure. Am I a moral victory type of person? Sure. But right now, I think what's better? You think of these hypotheticals that make you a little bit more happy and, kind of like, all right, maybe this could happen, maybe this will happen. Or do you want to sit there constantly every single day and be depressed? Oh, my team sucks. Oh, this sucks. Here we go again. Like, no, is that how you want to live your life? That's how it seems like everybody lives their life online. Just wanted to get that out there, that I hate Florida fans. As being a Florida fan, I hate most of the Florida fans because of that one sentiment. Back to the game where it actually matters. And maybe it's because, I'm getting older and I'm meeting people who work within the college field, who work within a coaching field, I have coached before. Yeah, sure, it's not football, but baseball, understanding the pressure and the game plan that goes behind it, and knowing that every little mistake is going to cost you in the long run. Maybe I'm just more understanding of that than all these other people online that have no experience within sports at all outside of playing in high school. Maybe that gives me a different perspective, but I don't know. Back to the game, though, for sure now. I'll be honest with you. I was not that unimpressed. Sure, there was a lot of penalties. The only thing that happened in this game, the only takeaways from Florida that I could really harp on that were really, really tough to watch. The false start, the illegal formations. You can't have that. And that falls right back on the head coach. I'm a Billy Napier guy. That falls right back on the head coach. But it also falls onto the players. You got to understand that we're in a cadence. You're the only person who has jumped off. Damian George is the only person who jumped off sides the entire game. No one else. Everybody else was on time. Sure, the other guys may have not held their blocks for as long because they kept getting pressure on Mertz. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But there's only one guy that jumped off sides. There was only one guy that lined up in the illegal formation twice. Right? That's a personnel thing. Sure, it's a coaching thing as well, but that falls right back on the player, that you have to be there because everyone else is following it. Everyone else is doing well. Nobody else was getting penalties besides that. So that's just one thing. But outside of that, the only thing I really had an issue with in this game, actually, I forgot to add the two number threes, which I don't know what their special teams package is anymore, but Trey Wilson wears number 3, freshman wide receiver. Jason Marshall wears number 3, redshirt junior corner, right? Has played all 3 years he's been here, whatever it is. Jason Marshall has not played on special teams since like his beginning of sophomore year. Why is he even out there? Like, why is he even going out there? I don't know if that's his fault that he's going out there, or they have a package for him to go out there on special teams, and he did. But there's no reason Jason Marshall should be out there on special teams in the first place because he hasn't been in a package for special teams in forever. So I don't know what he's doing. That's a special teams coordinator issue right there. He's got to be able to figure out that's literally his only job, is to make sure his personnel gets on the field and no one's out there that isn't. And he messed it up. So that falls right back on the special teams coordinator. Sure, Billy will get the flag for that, but that's a special teams coordinator thing. But outside of the dumb penalties that I had an issue with, the only other issue was not being able to block for Mertz because he had no time whatsoever. And then Adam Mahalik being the worst kicker in college football. I've been saying this to everybody since like the beginning of last year when I saw him miss like 7 extra points last year. The guy sucks. We have Trey Smack on the roster. He kicked a 65-yarder in high school. I think this guy could kick in the NFL or in the college games from 35. Mahalik shanks it. Like, it was terrible. I get you have a short yardage kicker and a long range kicker, but you can't just keep trotting this guy out if he misses extra points, if he's missing these chip field goals. Like, that's ruining. You think about it. You take away the bad read by Moton and tripping up and causing that play to end, and then that missed field goal, that's 17-14. Saying he makes the field goal, right, and then they don't complete the pass gets broken up or picked off, whatever. It's 17-14 going to that final drive of the game. Think about that. It's 17-14 going into the final drive. But mental mistakes just kind of ruin this team. I will give a shout-out all day. I got flamed on the internet because I gave a good take about Austin Armstrong, but which, again, can't be positive anymore. I will give a massive shout-out to Austin Armstrong because this defense looks so much more engaged, looks so much more athletic, so much more bigger than they had the past couple years with the guys. They've brought in linebackers that are not afraid to put their nose down and tackle people, which is something we needed because outside of Amari Burney last year and Ventrell Miller, no one else on the team could tackle. Everyone just broke off tackles on our team. We got guys now that are not afraid to tackle. Jason Marshall made a great tackle and all that stuff. And Austin Armstrong, yeah, he got caught in playing in zone a couple of times earlier. I guess, that's the thing you're going to get. You get good tacklers at linebacker, but not good coverage linebackers. So you're forced to play a little bit more of a man offense or defense, but that's what this team is so athletic for. You can play them in man, and once we switched to man, we were perfectly fine. You stack the box a little bit, stop the run. Sure, they got you on read option a couple times, but it's hard to constantly switch to defend them. You have Bryson Barnes, who is not as athletic as Johnson is. Sure, he had a rushing touchdown, which there's a hold. Obviously, the hold in every play. I'm not gonna worry about it as much. But they showed it on replay in slow motion that there was a hold, and nobody said anything about it. It's fine. Not too concerned because they were gonna eventually score anyways on that drive. They had all momentum going there after the pick. But Johnson was just running all over the field, all that kind of stuff. And they just kept switching back and forth between those two. And it's like we're throwing our packages all over the field here because we're forced to play against two quarterbacks. And eventually we just were like, hey, let Nate Johnson throw the ball because he cannot throw the ball. He was not able to handle snaps half the time. So we just let him throw the ball, and that's when they ended up switching. And it was like, okay, we eventually switching game plan. Like with Todd Grantham, we're still only playing coverage against everybody, and we're not going to make any of those plays. So shout out to Austin Armstrong, creating a little bit more havoc on the defense. We're getting pressure a little bit better right now. I've seen it a lot more where sure, they ran for like 100-something yards, whatever, but the run defense looked a little bit better from what we looked last year. It's only going to take time to keep developing within game situations. And then on the offensive side, call me crazy, but Graham didn't even look that bad. Graham Mertz did not look that bad. He threw for 330, something like that. He had a pick that Pearsall, it just bopped through his hands right into the defender's hands. Nothing Graham could do there. Graham got sacked 5 times. Nothing he can do there. If you watch the game, he had less than 2 seconds to even think about doing anything back there. So shout out to him. I'll give him all the credit in the world for hanging in there, being tough. Give a shout out to Ricky Pearsall for a couple times down the stretch, making some big plays. Marcus Burke, who lined up illegally twice, but made some good catches. Shout out to Jonathan Odom, who was awesome as a tight end. I might be faster than him, but he was out there getting hands. Caleb Douglas with the Randy Moss type of catch in the end zone. And then shout out to Trey Wilson, our freshman wide receiver, who looked pretty solid last night as well, except for the punt situation. If you know what I'm talking about, you saw it. But we just couldn't run the ball. Utah last year, we gashed them in the run, and they learned from their mistakes, got better, stopped the run, and that's just kind of it. Again, you take away some of the couple little mistakes, that kept forcing us back on third downs, creating the third and short to now third and long because of false starts or a holding. Maybe this game's a little closer. But again, Utah's ranked 14th in the country for a reason. A lot of people picked them to win the Pac-12 for a reason. This shouldn't be a surprise. We're going on the road to a very tough environment. But obviously, to a lot of people, this is the end of the world. We'll move on from Florida. They play McNeese State next weekend. Utah plays Baylor, another tough matchup to play against. But that'll be it for that. We'll kind of end it there. Some of the other teams that played last night, UCF had their season debut, 156-6 over Kent State. John Maurice Plumlee looked okay, looked really not bad. Again, you're playing Kent State. I'd hope they look good. Had over 200 yards passing, almost 100 yards rushing. Looked fine on that end. Wake Forest beat Elon. NC State and UConn, I watched this game for a little bit right before the Florida game started. UConn was running the ball a little bit there, man. Their running back, Victor Rosa, was running the crap out of it. And their quarterback, Joseph Fagnano or something like that, didn't even play that bad either. NC State, obviously just a better team. Brandon Armstrong making his debut, almost rushed for 100 yards himself with 2 touchdowns. He played really well. But UConn covered 24-10. NC State win. If I'm a UConn fan, I'm excited about what I saw last night. Missouri made their season debut, 35-10 win over South Dakota. Brady Cook threw for 172 yards and a touchdown. Luther Burden, the former 5-star number 1 wide receiver in the country last year, coming in, 96 yards on 7 catches and a touchdown. Arizona State. Never mind. I don't even want to talk about Florida. Let's just ignore it. Former Florida commit, Jaden Rashada, as a true freshman, made his debut for them. They win 24-21 over Southern Utah. What a school. Rashada throws for 232 and 2 touchdowns. Okay. Kenny Dillingham's debut as head coach there at Arizona State. Trent Dilfer makes his head coaching debut at UAB against North Carolina A&T. They win the game 35-6. And then the more thrilling part after the Florida game ended, we all turned over and watched Nebraska and Minnesota down the stretch. Matt Rule's debut as the Nebraska head coach. Minnesota wins this one in a typical Big Ten nail-biter, 13-10. Jeff Sims did not look good for Nebraska. 114, a touchdown, 3 picks. Yeah, he had 91 yards rushing, but throwing not very good. We all saw the final play of the game that got them the win to Daniel Jackson in the back of the end zone. It tied the game up on 4th down, which then eventually led to the interception that Jeff Sims threw. Got Minnesota going down the field. Hell of a job by PJ Fleck to not call the timeout on the eventual holding penalty that brought them back on the 10-second runoff. Ran the ball eventually and got him in the field goal position, kicked the game-winning field goal. Nebraska still covered the 7. That was your pick on your Sports Digest there. And that was it for all the games on Thursday. But now we move on to the games that are coming up, and we're going to kind of go over the ones that really matter. We'll talk about some of the teams who they're playing, but we're not going to go into deep. If I have a pick for it, I'll tell you. Miami of Ohio and Miami play each other. The battle of who is actually Miami. Miami right now, 16.5-point favorites. If you do not know, for Miami of Ohio, Brett Gabbert sounds familiar. It should. Brett Gabbert, the quarterback for Miami of Ohio. The team's not bad. Obviously, Miami looking to bounce back after last year, having a lot to prove from what happened last season. I don't like a side in that game. I'm not picking a side. I think that's a lot of points for Miami against Miami of Ohio, but it also makes sense. I'm staying away there. Central Michigan and Michigan State making their season debut with a new quarterback at the helm in Noah Kim. We talked about him a little bit, talked about how some of their receivers transferred. Again, Big Ten season preview. I have all my season previews for the Power 5 conferences on my channel, on my Spotify, wherever you want to go if you want to hear a little bit more about these teams and what I think about them. Michigan State makes their debut against Jim McElwain's Fighting Chippewas or whatever they're called. on Friday, so tonight at 6 o'clock. Michigan State 14-point favorites. I'm good. First ACC matchup of the year. Georgia Tech hosts Louisville, and Louisville, obviously, with a new head coach there at helm. Georgia Tech. This game is, I think it's at the Falcon Stadium, if I'm not wrong. Very interesting game. It's, Georgia Tech's okay, right? We talked about Georgia Tech. They're all right. They're not very good. They have Haynes King, the former quarterback at A&M. He is the guy at the helm there. And then Louisville, Jack Plummer comes over with his former head coach, Brian Brom, to come be the quarterback at Louisville. They still have Jawar Jordan, and they've still got Jamari Thrash at wide receiver. Still a really good offense there, returning last year after losing Malik Cunningham. Georgia Tech are 7.5-point underdogs at home. I don't like 7.5 because when you're betting football, obviously a touchdown and extra point 7. I think Louisville is much better than Georgia Tech, but something scares me about this. If you were to pick a side here, I'd buy down to get 7. Just that way, if it ends in a touchdown scoring game, you can get the push anyways. Kansas makes their season debut against Missouri State. Shout out my boy D. And then the game of the night, some would say maybe. I don't know. 10 o'clock starts, CBS Sports Network. If you want some football, midnight action time. Hawaii plays their second game of the year just after playing this past weekend in week 0 against Vanderbilt. Looked not bad. They take on Stanford. Troy Taylor, the new head coach at Stanford, coming over from Sacramento State, I believe. A whole new team there. Not looking great. This is my play of the day here. Hawaii plus 3.5 at home. Last week, Hawaii against Vanderbilt hung in there for a while. 35-28, they took the loss. But their quarterback, Braden Shager, 351, 3 touchdowns. Don't worry about 2 picks. They looked really good. I'm not gonna hate against this. And they're at home. Stanford, new coaching regime, new players in the program. A lot of guys left. They still got some guys on the team. Benjamin Urasek, one of the guys we talked about as probably their most key guy on the team, I'd say. And then their quarterback is Justin Lamson. I think he may have came over from Sac State with him. I might be completely wrong though. Ignore me if I am. I still like Hawaii no matter what in this game, plus 3.5. Moving on to Saturday. This is the big bulk. Again, if I got to play, I'll let you know. Boston College and Northern Illinois. We got to play to start off the day, baby. Northern Illinois goes to Boston College to start off the season. Boston College, Emmett Moorhead, the new, well, I guess he kind of started a little bit towards the end of the year last year for Boston College, but really taking over as the number 1 guy now. They got Ryan O'Keefe at wide receiver. He is pretty good, so that's a guy to look out for there. But NIU, Northern Illinois, they have a guy at quarterback, Rocky Lombardi. And Rocky Lombardi, former, I believe, Michigan State quarterback, has a chance to take over the helm here. I really don't hate Northern Illinois plus 9 against Boston College on the road. Sure, is this a reach pick? Yeah, but it's the first weekend of college football, so who cares? You can put me down for Northern Illinois plus 9 against Boston College to keep that game kind of close. Kentucky makes their season debut against the Chirp Ball State Cardinals. 25.5-point favorites. Devin Leary making his debut at Kentucky. That's a big spread. I'm not picking the Ball State side, but that's a big spread for the first game with a new quarterback. Just keep that in mind. Liberty Bibbity making their official Conference USA debut against Bowling Green. Michigan takes on Eastern Carolina. 36-point favorites there. That's on Peacock at 11 in the morning, 12 if you're in Eastern time zone, but Central is the best time zone. We all know that. Big game on the Big Ten network, if you can find a way to get that on your TVs. Purdue and Fresno State. And Fresno State, not a bad school. We didn't really talk about them because we didn't cover their thing. Mikey Keene, the former quarterback at UCF, transfers over there and takes over at Fresno State. But Hudson Card, we talked about them in the Big Ten preview. Hudson Card coming over from Texas, who looked really good last year while starting for them, is going to be taken over. Purdue's at home to start the season. I like Purdue minus 3.5 here. I think the money line is a little too rich for me, but 3.5. I think they can get that at home with a new head coach in Scott Satterfield. And I think everything is just I think everything is going to go their way this game. I like Hudson Card a lot for this Purdue offense heading into this game. Iowa and Utah State. Iowa makes their season debut. FS1, that game is going to be on. Another noon game. Cade McNamara was supposed to not play, but he said he's going to play. So I was originally on the under in this game, but Cade's going to be playing, so I want to stay away. Oklahoma makes their debut against Butch Jones's Arkansas State Red Wolves. 36-point favorites at home, no thanks. SMU Louisiana Tech, no thanks. Coach Prime makes his debut going to TCU, the defending runner-ups, I guess you can call them. They were the runner-up in the college football playoff. Lost the national championship game. Obviously, we all know that one. Coach Prime makes his debut. A lot of people on Colorado 20 or plus 20.5 or plus 21, wherever you can get it. I don't want to take it just because I don't know. There are a lot of question marks around TCU, but Chandler Morris, their starting quarterback for them, was originally supposed to be the guy last year until he got hurt. That's how Max Duggan got in. I like Chandler Morris. They lose a lot of these other weapons. They bring in J.P. Richardson, though. They bring in JoJo Earl. I think 20 is way too much to lay if you're a TCU side, or if you're trying to bet for Coach Prime. I think that's just a lot. I think it's a weird number to have. I'd stay away, but that's the big game on Fox to watch out for. Tennessee makes their season debut against Virginia. I believe that's a neutral site game. 28-point favorites for the Tennessee Volunteers. Obviously, Joe Milton, the new full-time quarterback there, with Hendon Hooker graduating, going to the draft. So that'll be an eye to keep on there. That's a noon game, ABC. Arkansas makes their debut at noon as well. 34.5-point favorites against Western Carolina. Who cares? Akron and Temple, another one. Here comes Alex, another play for me. I'm going to take Akron plus 10.5 against Temple. Joe Moorhead, I like him a lot, obviously. DJ Irons, their quarterback, is getting better. Lorenzo Lingard, former Florida Gator running back, now the guy over there, he's not even bad. Against Temple, that I really don't know how good Temple's going to be this year. I mean, I see why the 10.5, but I'm going to ride with Akron in the action on Wednesday nights, playing on a Saturday here. 10.5. I got them at 10.5 on the road. They're 10 now. Akron, I like them, plus 10.5 or 10, whatever you get them at. Ole Miss makes their debut as well. They're playing Mercer. Oregon makes their debut at 2 o'clock on the Pac-12 network, where if you don't know where that is, again, find some like dark website that, you know, you get these pop-up ads saying that someone's in your area. Like, that's where you can find the Pac-12 network. Cincinnati makes their Big 12 debut against Eastern Kentucky at the 2:30 slot, 3:30 slot if you're Eastern time zone. Ohio State makes their season debut at Indiana. The line is 30. A lot of people think that's a little too much for a Big Ten matchup. I agree, but I'm not betting it, especially with Ohio State not knowing who their quarterback is. All you got to do is throw it up to Marvin Harrison Jr., and he's going to catch the ball. And if you don't throw it up to him, you got Fleming and Igbuka. Who cares? Ohio State is easily going to win that game. I don't know about the spread. That's a stay away from me on that one. Notre Dame plays again against Tennessee State. That's on NBC at 2:30. Pittsburgh makes their season debut. Auburn makes their season debut at 2:30 against UMass, who got a big win last week. Texas makes their season debut on Fox against Rice. Obviously, if you do not know, I'm going to tell you now. Rice's starting quarterback is JT Daniels. If you don't know, JT Daniels, former quarterback at USC, Georgia, Pitt, or BYU. I don't even know. He's probably played at 17 schools by now, but he's now the starting quarterback at Rice. So check out for that one. USF, Alex Golesh, the former offensive coordinator at Tennessee, making his head coaching debut against Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky is returning their starting quarterback in Austin Reed. Shout out to Austin Reed, transferred from West Florida in Pensacola. Shout out to that. He transferred to Western Kentucky. He's been awesome there. He's like 28 years old, it feels like. I'd stay away for this game. I thought USF would be a good bet here with a new head coach and everything with Gary Bohannon at quarterback, but I completely forgot that Reed stayed at Western Kentucky, so stay away. But that's a good game to watch there. Wisconsin makes their debut underneath the new and improved era under Luke Fickell. That's a game to watch for. 28 is the spread. Little big. I don't know if I like that there. Game of the afternoon, for sure. Washington, who have high hopes, playoff hopes, ranked 10th in the country right now, playing host to Boise State, who Boise State getting really slept on this year, I think. Taylor Green at quarterback, I really like him a lot. They've got some good weapons. Their defense is going to be solid as well. I don't know if it's enough to beat Washington. 14, though, point total, I think it's a little low, but it's a little too scary for me to bet. If I'm leaning anything in this game, let's look at the over 58.5. I just want to peep at it. I don't want to do anything. I just want to look at it. Maybe towards game time, I think about it and might bet it, but that's not an official pick for me. Scrolling down a little bit more, Mississippi State makes their debut at 3 o'clock against Southeastern Louisiana. Georgia makes their debut at 5 o'clock against UT Martin with their extremely tough schedule they have to play this year. It's sarcastic. Just look it up. USC gets another shot at an easy program playing Nevada at 5:30. Again, Pac-12 Network. You probably got to find a place that you can buy a bunch of Viagra on. They're selling other types of pills on there. Just go ahead and find it there. Baylor makes their season debut against Texas State. 27.5 is the spread. I like Baylor to bounce back this year. The spread's a little lot. I like Blake Shapen. I like Richard Reese, obviously, but a little too much for me. One of the games of the night as well, UTSA, the Meep Roadrunners, going into Houston, taking on the Cougars, their debut in the Big 12. But UTSA is bringing back the man, the myth, the legend, Frank Harris, who has been playing there for years now, is unbelievable. Sure, they lost a couple of guys at wide receiver, a couple guys transferring. Joshua Cephas, though, still really solid. Kavorian Barnes, their running back, is very solid as well. I like the Meep Roadrunners on the road money line to win this game against Houston's Big 12 debut. Houston, a lot of turnover. Donovan Smith now the quarterback there at Houston. They lost, obviously, Clayton Tune, Nathaniel Dell. They got Matthew Golden, who is very underrated and very solid, just a sophomore. But I like the Meep Roadrunners. They're ranked in my top 25 for a reason. I like them there. I believe they're making their debut in the American Athletic Conference, so shout out to them. Kansas State makes their debut playing Southeast Missouri State. Memphis makes their debut against Bethune-Cookman. Oklahoma State plays Central Arkansas. These are all 6 o'clock games. Texas A&M takes on New Mexico at 6 o'clock as well. That's an ESPN game somehow. 38-point favorites for the A&M Aggies. That's a lot of points, but I don't like New Mexico enough to bet that. Vandy gets their second chance at I guess, stardom this year, maybe. I don't know. Against Alabama A&M. Washington State, Colorado State. We had a little bit of a game there. Washington State, 11-point favorites on the road at Colorado State. That's a little too much for me. Then, where game day is hosted, the game on ABC, prime time on ABC. North Carolina, South Carolina. This is in South Carolina. Obviously, Drake May making his season debut here, a top 5 pick of the draft, undoubtedly, against Spencer Rattler, who in this South Carolina offense that down the stretch this last year was unbelievable. But coming in on the road, the Tar Heels are 2.5 point favorites. I like that money line for UNC on the road against South Carolina. That's not saying I'm down on South Carolina. I think South Carolina is very good. I just think Spencer Rattler last year hit his peak, and this year I think a lot of people are hyping it up a little too much when Drake May comes in here and shows you, hey, I'm a top 5 pick in a generational talent for one of these NFL franchises. I'm going to show them why here on ABC Primetime. So North Carolina to get the win on South Carolina on the road. I like that a lot. Alabama makes their debut against MTSU. Shout out my buddy goes there at MTSU. Actually does cheer on the team, so shout out to him. 39-point favorites for Bama. I'm good. Illinois versus Toledo. I almost picked Toledo here just because Maction, but Illinois got a really good D-line, so I'll pass. I like this one, and this is my first real big spread bet of the day as a favorite. Texas Tech on the road against Wyoming. They are 14-point favorites on the road. I like Texas Tech minus 14. Tyler Shaw is a really good quarterback for this team. Duran Brantley is a solid wide receiver, and then their defense. Yeah, sure, Tyrese Wilson is not there anymore, but this is a very good defense. I think this Texas Tech team is a little underrated. Wyoming, you're got a lot of question marks there with that team. So Texas Tech on the road in Wyoming, minus 14. I like that. That's my first big spread pick of the day. West Virginia, Penn State, 20.5-point favorites. Obviously, the backyard brawl. Everyone knows this. Penn State ranked in the top 10 this year. This game's on NBC and the Peacock. I feel stupid if I were to bet West Virginia plus 20.5, but I feel like in these games, it's always kind of close. I might convince myself to pick it at the end of the day. I might eventually go down and pick it, but right now as an official pick, I'm good. South Alabama, Tulane. I think this is a very, very underrated game. This is at 7 o'clock, ESPNU. This should be an ESPN game. Tulane, obviously, Tajay Spears no longer there. A couple guys on the defense no longer there. Michael Pratt returning at quarterback. South Alabama, though, really underrated this year. Carter Bradley, the starting quarterback for this team, not bad. LaDamian Webb at running back. This team's not bad. They also got my boy Arch at running back as well, whether he plays or not. He's there on the team. So I really think the South Alabama team's not bad. They played really well against Southern Miss last year in a tough environment. They're 7-point favorite or underdogs, South Alabama are 7-point underdogs on the road at Tulane. I don't know. Again, this is another one where I might convince myself into picking it. I don't know yet with that, but that'll be a good game for sure. And then the other game that is happening at 9:30, UCLA makes their season debut against Coastal Carolina. They're 14.5-point favorites. Obviously, the head coach at Coastal Carolina departs. Grayson McCall stays, though, after a lot of rumors he was going to transfer to Auburn, Florida, something like that. He ends up staying at Coastal Carolina. I don't know the talent level that they got there at Coastal Carolina this year anymore with a new head coach. But UCLA has a new quarterback in there, and Dante Moore and Ethan Garbers are both two big guys that are having a QB battle. I guess Colin Schlee even is in the mix for it as well. I don't know if 14.5 is enough for me to bet either side here, so I'm going to pass on that. I know I'm lame. Again, there's probably a good chance I end up betting these the day of, and I see it, I'm like, yeah, I like it, I'll bet it. Moving on to Sunday's games now. Northwestern versus Rutgers. There's way too much going on with the Northwestern program for me to even think about betting them, but I also don't like 6.5 with Rutgers. That's a little too much. Oregon State, San Jose State. I like Oregon State a lot, but they're 16.5-point favorites, 16.5-point favorites on the road. That's a little too big of a number. Maybe it dies down a little bit. If it goes to 14 somehow, I'll buy it and then get it. If it goes down to 15, I'll buy it down to 14, but 16.5 is a little too much for me to bet on. And then the game of the weekend. Obviously what everybody has come here for. Sunday night, primetime, ABC, LSU, Florida State, two top 10 teams in the country. Now, we've talked about it a couple times, some suspensions, some guys who are not going to play. Again, if you want to hear my breakdown on these teams, ACC season preview, I dropped back in, I think, June or July, at the end of July. And then the SEC season preview was my last one I did. We talked about both the teams, both quarterbacks, Jordan Travis, Jaden Daniels, both Heisman contenders this year easily. It's running back by committee with Florida State right now. They got a lot of transfers in here, though. Obviously, they have a lot of impact players on the team on the defensive side. LSU, the same way, though. They got a bunch of transfers in to help out this offense as well. But they have a lot of guys on the defensive side that are impact players. Harold Perkins versus Jared Verse on the defensive side for each team. That's a big one. I don't know what to do. As a Florida fan, this is the worst game of all time. But as a college football fan, this is the best game we could have to start off the year. Obviously, last year, everybody remembers the field goal to end the game, all that, Tabasco, everything, the whole debacle at the end of the game. Everyone remembers that historic type of game last year to start the season. Now we have a hurricane that is impacting this one. Florida State, 2-point underdogs, kind of playing a home game in Orlando. LSU on the road. LSU, obviously SEC. Florida State, I think, is a very good team this year. Could potentially make the playoff. Give me the Noles +2. Oh, I don't like picking it. I really don't want to. But Florida State is just too good, man. I really think the Florida State is much, much improved. I think the team is really good. They got a lot of good talent. This could easily backfire against me, and LSU could have a fantastic game and ball out, and Florida State comes out flat. You know, obviously that would be great for my morale, is that Florida State comes out flat, but that's just not the reality. Florida State's a really good ball club. LSU's a really good ball club. This game is really, really, really good. I think 56.5, you might want to check the under just a little bit in that game. Just give it a look. Maybe do some number crunching and then give it a look. I like that just a little bit. I know they got good quarterbacks, but the defenses are also really good for both teams. And they're both obviously very good schools, very good teams. It's going to be a close game no matter what. I just think you got to lay the points with the underdogs that are basically playing a home game in Orlando. The fans easier travel, but LSU fans travel well. A lot of LSU fans live in Florida, so that's that. That's pretty much it. There's a game Monday, but we'll talk about that on Monday's episode when we get to it. But that's it, man. Those are my picks. Hawaii +3.5 tonight. Purdue -3.5 tomorrow. UTSA money line. UNC money line. Texas Tech -14. Akron +10. Northern Illinois +9. I like those all a lot. And then Florida State, I got them at +3. It's +2 now. I got them at +3. But if you want to buy them up to 3, go for it, because if you're going to 3, you get that field goal. So that's why I got it at 3. But it's 2 right now. I'd lean 3. But that's it. College football is officially here. Enjoy the games tonight. Enjoy the games tomorrow. Watch the FIBA World Cup maybe if you get a chance to. Show some love to basketball. We're almost to basketball season. That makes me really happy because last night all I kept thinking about is when are the Grizzlies going to be able to play basketball again? And that's all I was caring about last night. So that'll be the end of the episode here. I hope you guys enjoy the games this weekend. Be safe. Enjoy your Labor Day. We will have an episode Monday. I will still do it, even though it's Labor Day. I am still doing labor on Monday. But it's fun labor. I enjoy it a lot. So I'll talk to you guys Monday. I'm Alex McNish, and you got your Sports Digest.